The flight deck of the USS Gerald R. Ford rumbles with the focus power of a storm trapped inside steel. The sound begins deep within the electromagnetic aircraft launch system, rising into a sharp metallic roar that seems to shake the entire carrier. At 1325 Zulu, that roar never stops. The Persian Gulf is no longer just a shipping corridor. It has become the center of a global crisis. Off the coast of Oman, 400 massive cargo ships sit motionless, unable to move through one of the most important routes on Earth. Above Doha, Qatar, the sky carries the mark of a $20 billion catastrophe. The Ras Laffan LNG facility has been transformed into a towering column of smoke and flame, visible even from low Earth orbit. In the hours after the impact, global oil prices surged by 35%. Sending shockwaves through energy markets around the world. There is no room left for slow, traditional diplomacy. What comes next is a 22-nation precision intervention designed to reopen the flow of the world's most essential resource. On March 19th, neutrality vanished in the heat of the crisis in Qatar. The United Kingdom, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, and Australia merged their sensor networks into one unified command system led by the United States. Two powerful carrier strike groups led by the USS Gerald R. Ford and a Nimitz-class carrier moved into position near the entrance to the Strait of Hormuz. Around them, Arleigh Burke-class destroyers and Allied frigates formed a vast defensive screen of Aegis-equipped steel. Together, they created a barrier so advanced that the edge of American strategic reach now stretched to the very limits of Iranian territorial waters. The logic was simple and cold. If the world's energy artery is blocked, the world will act together to clear it. The message sent to Tehran was not a request. It was a notice that the coalition had arrived. Japan, a country that depends on these waters for nearly 90% of its crude oil, made a historic move. After decades of naval restraint, Tokyo placed its own ships directly into the operational line. Its Izumo-class vessels joined the American strike group, adding another layer of air defense to what had become one of the most heavily protected zones of airspace in modern history. By the time a third U.S. carrier group began its transit, backed by 2,500 combat-ready Marines aboard an amphibious assault ship, the balance had already shifted. The United States spends billions keeping these sea lanes open, so energy prices remain stable for American families. Is that investment worth it? Share your thoughts below. We read every comment. The first major movement begins far below the surface, in the silent pressure of the deep. The Strait has been seeded with smart naval mines, devices advanced enough to recognize the acoustic signature of a civilian tanker and separate it from that of a military frigate. To clear the path, the coalition deploys the hidden nerve system of its modern battle network. Unmanned underwater vehicles slip into the water from literal combat ships, their side-scan sonar mapping the floor of the Strait in high-definition 3D. They move with the calm precision of mechanical predators, scanning every ridge, shadow, and object beneath them. When a device is identified, the response is immediate. MH-60 Seahawk helicopters hover above the coordinates and release Archerfish neutralization systems, clearing the threat with controlled precision and opening the first narrow lanes back through the Strait. These are compact, remotely guided neutralization systems designed to move through the water, reach a naval mine, and disable it at close range. A moment later, the surface lifts with a heavy underwater pulse, sending white water rising nearly 100 feet into the air. In seconds, a threat worth tens of thousands of dollars is reduced to drifting debris and sand. As the mines are cleared, the tankers begin moving again, but none of them travel alone. Each vessel is protected inside a moving shield of advanced warships. 4 destroyers surround every tanker in a formation built to detect, absorb, and defeat threats before they can reach the convoy. On the bridge of an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, the tactical action officer studies a glowing screen filled with hundreds of green and red symbols. The green symbols are friendly ships and aircraft. The red ones are moving fast. They are Iranian Revolutionary Guard fast boats, small high-speed craft racing out from the broken edges of the Iranian coastline. Armed with rocket systems and heavy weapons, they try to overwhelm the formation by coming in from multiple directions at once, spreading across the water like a swarm. The destroyer's Mark 45 5-inch gun turns with shocking speed for a machine of its size. Its barrel locks onto the incoming boats and fires in a steady rhythm that shakes the deck beneath the crew's boots. The rounds burst in the air above the waterline, forcing the swarm to break apart before it can close the distance. At the same time, MH-60R helicopters hover above the convoy and release AGM-114 Hellfire missiles with pinpoint accuracy. These weapons are built for precision. They move fast, strike selected targets, and stop the attack before it can reach the protected tankers. Within minutes, the first swarm attempt is broken. 12 fast boats are disabled, leaving only smoke and scattered debris across the water. The Coalition's battle network assigns the right response to each threat in real time, reducing delays and allowing the fleet to react faster than any human team could manage alone. Beneath the surface, the search for Gadir-class mini-submarines is just as intense. These submarines are small, roughly the size of a school bus, and designed to hide inside the noisy, layered waters of the Strait. But the Coalition has filled the area with a network of sonar buoys, floating sensors that turn the sea itself into a listening grid. When one of the submarines moves, it disturbs that grid. An Aegis destroyer miles away receives the data almost instantly. From its vertical launch system, it fires an RUM-139 anti-submarine rocket. The rocket rises from the deck, arcs toward the last known position, and releases a Mark 54 torpedo into the water by parachute. Once the torpedo enters the sea, its own sonar system activates. It searches, locks onto the contact, and begins its final approach. For the submarine crew, there is almost no warning, only the rapid sound of sonar closing in before the vessel is forced out of the fight. While the surface fleet clears the shipping lanes, the sky belongs to the Coalition's surveillance aircraft. Far above the reach of shoulder-fired air defense systems, the RQ-4 Global Hawk and the E-2D Advanced Hawkeye guide the entire operation, like conductors leading a vast, high-speed orchestra. The E-2D Advanced Hawkeye may be the most important aircraft in the airspace. Its AN/APY-9 radar acts like a powerful eye over the battlefield, tracking small and distant objects across hundreds of miles. It can spot Iranian Noor and Qadr anti-ship missile batteries long before those systems are ready to engage. By the time hostile sensors begin to activate, the Coalition already knows where they are, what they are preparing to do, and which asset is best positioned to respond. The result is a battle space where every movement is seen, every signal is analyzed, and every threat is met before it can grow into a larger crisis. Inside the combat network, the E-2D does more than observe. It directs. It can pass targeting data to a missile fired from a ship that has not even activated its own radar. The aircraft gives the signal, and the precision assets launch from the carrier deck. F-35C Lightning II stealth fighters move toward the center of the Iranian defense network. To radar operators along the coast, the sky appears completely empty. The aircraft's radar signature is tiny, almost impossible to separate from background noise, even while moving at high speed. The pilots stay silent. No radio chatter, no unnecessary signals. Instead, the battle network shares targeting information through secure, low-detection data links. The first targets are the system's eyes, coastal radar stations. The F-35Cs release AGM-88G AARGM-ER missiles designed to follow radar emissions back to their source. If an operator shuts the radar down, the missile's onboard navigation and seeker systems remember the location and continue toward the target. Across 6 separate sites, the strikes arrive almost at the same moment. In less than a minute, Iran's coastal defense network is effectively blinded. With the radar coverage disrupted, F/A-18E/F Super Hornets move in, carrying GBU-31JDAM precision-guided munitions. These heavy satellite-guided weapons are aimed at hardened drone launch facilities hidden in the Zagros Mountains. The sites are carved into rock and built to survive conventional pressure, but the JDAM is designed for accuracy. Released from 30,000 feet, it adjusts its path in flight, guiding itself toward the reinforced entrance of a drone hangar with extreme precision. The impact collapses the tunnel structure and seals the facility beneath thousands of tons of rock, taking the drone force out of the operation before it can launch. While carrier aircraft work along the coast, destroyers in the Gulf add long-range pressure of their own. From the vertical launch cells of Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, BGM-109, Tomahawk cruise missiles rise into the air and begin their low-altitude route inland. The Tomahawk flies like a small unmanned aircraft, staying close to the terrain at high speed to reduce detection. Its targets are IRGC command and control bunkers, located hundreds of miles from the coast. The battle network has reached a clear conclusion. To stop the fast boats on the water, the command nodes directing them must be taken offline. The Tomahawks arrive in sequence. One opens a path into the facility. A second follows moments later, entering through the same point and reaching deeper inside the structure. Within minutes, Iran's ability to coordinate a unified response is severely disrupted. Back near the coastline, hardened fast-boat shelters built into limestone cliffs are targeted by AGM-154J SOW glide weapons. These precision systems release specialized submunitions across the shelter entrances, overwhelming the protected sites and leaving the boat fleet unable to rejoin the fight. The pace of the operation is almost impossible to match. Every movement is tracked by satellite, processed through AI-assisted battle management, and matched with a response before commanders on the other side can react. This is the logic of modern checkmate. When every move is seen, every signal is tracked, and every option leads to a blocked path. The outcome has already been decided. On the USS Gerald R. Ford, the flight deck never slows. Aircraft launch, recover, refuel, rearm, and launch again. The carrier has become a moving engine of precision power, feeding the operation with constant pressure from the sea. As soon as a jet touches down, the deck crew moves with practiced speed. It is refueled, loaded again with GBU-38 JDAM precision-guided munitions, checked, cleared, and sent back into the air. The launch cycle on the USS Gerald R. Ford is unlike anything else at sea. Its electromagnetic catapults can send a heavy fighter off the deck roughly every 45 seconds, giving the carrier a sortie rate far beyond traditional naval aviation. In the Red Sea, Allied attention is tested from another direction. Houthi-linked forces attempt to create a diversion by launching Iranian-supplied anti-ship cruise missiles toward commercial vessels passing through the region. But the coalition's battle network reaches far beyond the Strait of Hormuz. A P-8A Poseidon patrol aircraft, operating more than 100 miles away, detects the launch almost immediately. It does not need to engage directly. Instead, it passes the coordinates to the USS Connie, an American destroyer positioned to respond. Seconds later, the destroyer launches an RIM-162 ESSM, intercepting the incoming threat during its early flight phase, far from the ships it was meant to endanger. The diversion fails because the coalition's sensor network is too wide, too fast, and too connected to be distracted by a single move. By day 14, the barrier across the Strait of Hormuz has been broken apart. The 400 stalled cargo ships are moving again, their engines vibrating through the water as they pass the disabled remains of Iran's coastal defense system. The IRGC, once considered one of the most capable unconventional forces in the region, is now facing severe diplomatic isolation. 33 nations have moved to formally classify it as a hostile extremist organization. Inside Tehran, the so-called axis of resistance is confronting a reality it had not prepared for: a sudden collapse in financial support, strategic confidence, and regional influence. The government's long-standing bargain with its people, stability in exchange for obedience, is beginning to fracture. Access to basic food supplies and clean water is under pressure because the leadership chose to risk a global trade route over a blockade it could not sustain. The international support Iran expected from Beijing and Moscow has turned into silence. Neither power is willing to put its own fleet at risk against a 22-nation coalition, especially to defend a move that pushed global energy prices higher and threatened their own economic interests. China, in particular, cannot afford a direct confrontation with a coalition controlling the same sea lanes its economy depends on. The coalition's success is not only military, it is a demonstration of the value of overwhelming coordination. The cost of the precision munitions used, including JDAMs, Hellfires, and Tomahawks, is small compared to the $20 billion in damage caused by the crisis, and even smaller compared to the trillions of dollars in global trade placed at risk. The world reached a clear conclusion: the cost of doing nothing was far greater than the cost of acting with precision. Iran's leadership believed that by closing the Strait of Hormuz, it could pressure the global economy and force negotiations on its own terms. What it failed to understand was that the global economy has a security system, one built to respond quickly, operate across continents, and remove threats before they can expand. For the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, this became a strategic disaster. Years of investment, billions in equipment, and much of its regional credibility were lost in less than 2 weeks. Its forces are now boxed into their own waters, watched by an air and sea shield that tracks every movement and gives almost no room for error. For the 22 nations of the coalition, the operation proved the power of sequence. Clear intelligence, superior technology, coordinated timing, and controlled force working together. It showed that modern coordination can outmatch scattered pressure tactics when every sensor, aircraft, ship, and command center is connected into one system. Global oil markets are beginning to stabilize. Tankers are moving again. Energy prices are starting their slow return toward normal levels. For the United States Navy, this was not the defining conflict of the century. It was a mission of necessity. The battle network did exactly what it was built to do: detect the threat, track it, contain it, and end the crisis before it could grow beyond control.